This is going to be a light week. This is only the second recording of the week, and it's going to be our last one because the subject we're dealing with now is pretty straight ahead and easy subject, the idea of seventh chords, just in general, seventh chords. So also let me warn you that next week will be the exam on the first two chapters on the 7/7 chords and on seventh chords in general. So just be prepared for that for next week. In the meantime, let's talk about these seventh chords. So seventh chords, well, composers, they weren't satisfied with just having a triad, three notes, like a C, an E, and a G. You can't expect composers to be satisfied with anything. They're always looking to do something new or exciting to thrill an audience. So they're always looking to find different combinations of notes. Theorists then say, oh, audiences like that, so it worked. Why did it work? Or audiences hated that, so it didn't work. Why didn't it work? So theorists try to figure out what makes music tick. But composers don't really care. They're just trying to find new sounds that they enjoy. And so sometimes a composer will write a chord based on fourths, a C to an F, a F to a B flat. Sometimes when they're working in thirds, they might just keep going forever, a C to an E to a G to a B to a D to an F. So they can write chords that are seventh chords, ninth chords, 11th chords, 13th chords. They're always experimenting. And what they found is that seventh chords work really well. Any chord, major or minor, could be turned into a seventh chord just by adding one extra note, a third above the top note of the chord. You get a seventh chord. And they all work the same way. The seventh resolves downward by step, and that's it. Now, except for the tonic chord, we're going to talk about that in a minute, the chords do not change function at all. Remember, every chord is really, in a sense, a dissonance. They don't look like it, but they all want to resolve. Every chord except the tonic chord. They all want to resolve. When you add a seventh, you add a dissonant interval, which has to resolve. It just makes the resolution stronger, adds some tension, adds some power. So there's nothing weird about it. It doesn't change the function of the chord, except the tonic. Now, in the 20th century, we got used to hearing seventh chords as consonant. As I said, dissonance and consonant is not a law, it's learned behavior. And so jazz often ends on a 1/7 chord and calls it tonic, and that's fine. We can call that tonic. But in the old days, that seventh chord always needed to resolve. So you rarely hear a real tonic chord with a seventh. You'll hear one chords that pass through with sevenths, but they really have changed function. They don't really function as tonics. You can't really sit on them like you can on everything else. All right. But everything else functions exactly the way you'd expect. Dominant chord goes to tonic. That means the 5 chord or the 7 chord. The predominant chords, the 2 and the 4, you add a seventh to them, they just want to go to 5 or 7. If you go to a 3 chord, add a seventh, it wants to go to a 6. 6 wants to go to a 2. None of the functions have changed. So what happens? Well, the chord moves just like you'd expect it to, but the seventh resolves downward by step. And that's the simple rule. Seventh resolves downward by step. Very simple rule. Now, sometimes the way chords work, the seventh can't resolve down, in which case it stays on the same note for the next chord or two, and then will eventually resolve down. But if you look at the path of the note, it'll eventually resolve downward by step. Sometimes it stays on the same note for a while. But even that's really kind of rare until the Romantic era. The seventh wants to go down. It's a dissonant note in the chord. It wants to resolve downward by step. Simple, simple, simple. There is nothing else to it. Now, we just went over a whole thing about how you notate chords. Remember, in the old days, whether you use Roman numerals or whether you use that figured bass notation, a 7 just means a 7 in the key. A sharp or a +7 means raised half a step. A flat or a /7 means down a half step. Otherwise, a 7's in the key. Major or minor, doesn't matter. In modern notation, you do a 7 means a minor 7th, like a dominant 7th. If you have an M in front of your 7, it's a major 7. Little circle, diminished 7. If the chord is diminished with a minor 7th, we put a circle with a slash in it, half diminished. So we've seen that notation before. So we can talk about a C7 chord would be a C with a B flat. A C major 7 would be a C with a B natural. But if we're in the key of C major, a 1 chord with a 7 would just have the B natural because it's in the key signature. We know all that stuff. So now you're ready. That's all you need to know for the entire chapter. It's just practice, practice, practice now. And I'll speak to you tomorrow.